Welcome, this is Jane Gardner, and welcome to the Business of At-Home Business, where we're talking about the Home Biz Startup TV, where we're going to be talking about how to start, run, and grow a home business. And today we're going to be talking about subjects that are of interest to anyone who wants to run a home business. So I'm Jane Gardner, and let's get started. I'll be telling you about this show right about now. Today we're going to start a new session on Jill or Jack of all trades. But first of all, I guess I'll tell you what I mean by Jill or Jack of all trades. What I mean is that when you're a solopreneur, you need to know a bit about a lot of things, and it basically strategize as to what things you need to learn about and what you can outsource. So for example, you need to know about your website and your computer problems and your HTML. If you want to manage your WordPress, you need to know WordPress in order to change minor things on your WordPress website. And you need to know about cash flow and your finances and your email and keeping in touch with your clients, etc., etc. So that's why I name it Jack or Jill of all trades Thursday, because you need to know a little bit about a lot of things. So for example, today we'll be going over finances, and I call that the cash flow there, although actually that cash flow is not as relevant as revenue and expenses. And we'll be looking at sales and selling. We'll be looking at your website and its functioning of your website for 4 weeks, and we'll be looking at your subscribers for 4 weeks and your computer issues for 4 weeks, and on and on and on. So far, we've done HTML. We've done some simple HTML over the last 4 weeks, just giving you an idea on what's involved with HTML. And hopefully now you can hear me because my microphone is up. And it's been pretty good. It's a bit difficult to just teach HTML in 4 weeks, but I have a offer over at HTML Code to be a website ninja. You would go to jgtips.com/HTML5 to have a look and see. We're going to be producing a course, so the early adopters, you get a very good price in order to do it live, and you'll be able to do it with me and get your questions answered. And I'm hoping to do it in 6 days. And no, not just in 6 days. I'll be doing it live in 6 days and demoing some of this. And then you have 5 weeks of being able to contact me with any questions. So for example, we'll look at creating hyperlinks, optimizing your images and your video and your audio, and what are meta tags, and how to make an ordered list and unordered list, how to validate the HTML, what HTML editors you should use. And we'll be having templates for creating a sales page with a sales button, or just a basic page, some templates on that, as well as some cheat sheets with the various, what I think are essential for a solopreneur HTML to know in order to quickly change your website without having to pay or wait for a graphic designer or a website developer. So that's my offer there, and we'll go back to it after, but let's go on. Except I forgot to tell you about myself, so there we go. We'll just do that quickly again. I'm Jane Gardner, and I work with my husband for the last 20 years and still doing it. It was a very busy day today, for example, but I'm still doing this. And in the evening, we've been working in our engineering office for the last 20 years, and we're getting near to retirement. And I thought I would come out and help others to start up their own small business as a solopreneur or even an entrepreneur, depending on local or offline or online, doesn't really matter. There's all the same principles for it. And we work in office together in our home, and we have dogs and cats, and I'm an artist, and we live in Western Canada. So that's me, and I hope you'll find some value out of today. So let's start today's training, which is today I'm just going to talk about some of the basics of your business. So being good at business usually involves being able to wear many hats. And great business is about people skills, communication, planning, marketing, etc. But one other aspect of good business that is just as most important and most daunting is number crunching. I hear the boos now. Even my husband knows when I'm doing our bookkeeping because that's my grumpy day. But anyway, we still have to do it. So business involves numbers, and if you really boil it down, most business models are essentially just fancy equations. So if you're new to business and you're already starting to question whether it's really for you, or you're already running a business thinking that you can just get by without looking at your numbers, then you need to know some of this information as well as go on further with it later. But it's certainly true that a lot of businessmen and women manage to get by in business while hiding their head in the sand regarding numbers. As long as you're generally in profit, there's nothing wrong, right? Well, yes, there is. If you're happy to coast along in your business without making any big plans for the future, without preparing yourself for things going wrong, and without making as much profit as possible, then yeah, you really don't need to know a thing about numbers. The thing is, by just taking a moment to look at some key figures, you could immediately increase your daily profits, maybe even have a large margin. If you ignore the numbers, you're basically ignoring the potential to make significantly more money. So this is why I'm doing this section for 4 weeks on numbers. Today we'll look at some of the basic documents that you should have and understand, and then we'll go, and probably in the week after, we'll go look at some of the terms and concepts, and I want to do that more with live with sketching and numbers and stuff. But today we'll just briefly look at some of the basic documents you should have in your business, and if you don't know how to make them, then it's time to get to learn how. You won't be learning today because they're all very involved with each other. So the balance sheet keeps track of your company's assets and liabilities from the time you start your business. This document can give you a quick handle on your company's financial strength. And this is usually created from entering all your income and your expenses, as well as your assets. And it's usually set up as the end result report. For the month, you can look at your balance sheet. Obviously, your assets usually stay the same unless you're buying lots of computers. And certainly liabilities are important to look at to make sure that you know what your liabilities are. And what everybody likes to look at, of course, is the income statement. It's a simple document that lists your company's assets and liabilities. But basically, it's your revenue that's coming in, and then minus your expenses that are going out, and it'll either show a profit or a loss over a specific period of time. So we'll have a look at some of these concepts in another show, and try and do it audio as well as visual. So we'll need to do this sort of some sample numbers. And then the cash flow statement just simply shows how much money came in and then went through your business for any period of time. When you're in business, you're not always going to be paid the same day as you sell something. So you always have to know how your cash is flowing and how long it will be for your cash to flow and come in and be ordered to cover your expenses. So it's always good to know what your receivable. Well, sorry, I'm talking about things you may not know. So we'll just continue on. But you always should have an idea of how your cash is flowing and maybe make some changes so that you know what you're doing. For example, when we do a job, we always expect a 50% retainer when we start a job, and then the other 50% when the job is finished. This really helps with our cash flow. We've had a few times where Brian has done the work, and then the person says, oh, no, I didn't really want that. Yeah, sorry. And then, well, yeah, but I've done the work. And basically that was a loss because they wouldn't even pay the retainer, even part of the money. So that's why we have a policy of a 50% retainer, so that we at least have some cash at the beginning and know that even if the job is canceled or the job is decided that it's not going to continue, that he can be paid for his time from the money. So the numbers you need to know are your sales and your revenue, and we'll go over those because those are actually different numbers. It's a basic number you should know on how much you are selling or making in revenue. The quick ratio, this popular formula, is a good way to get a very quick snapshot of how your business is currently doing. This number is created by taking cash plus your outstanding accounts receivables divided by your current liabilities, which is your bills. So we'll go over what accounts receivable are and all the various terms next week, but I just wanted to give you an idea that there's a formula. So you could have a bare minimum of a 1-to-1 ratio, since that means you have enough cash on hand to pay your bills, for example. So you're always looking at your ratio of your cash versus your liabilities, or if you want to look at it this way, your revenue coming in minus your bills being subtracted, giving you a net. You want to have a look at your total inventory. If you keep an inventory, you should always monitor it regularly so you know you have enough to fill your orders. And it's also important to keep track of, because if your inventory keeps creeping up, you may be in trouble. You don't want to have too much inventory, but you also want to have inventory on demand available to you if you need to process it. And your gross margin, this is how much money you have left after you have subtracted the direct costs of producing and selling your product or service. The higher, the better. If your margin isn't high enough, then you need to increase your price or reduce your costs. So at all times, you need to know what your costs are for a project, and then you can adjust your margin, which is, of course, going to adjust your price appropriately. And we'll go over that another time. I'm just giving you some terms. So the net income is a simple equation. You subtract all of your business expenses, including taxes, from the revenue you have generated. If this number is negative, then your business is not profitable. So those are some of the numbers that we will be talking about over the next 4 weeks. This, of course, was an infographic that I scrolled through to give you some idea of some of the concepts for doing your finances. And I will have it available to download at http://jgtips.com/JJTT, I think, for Jill or Jack of all trades. That's where the show is for the current episode, so I'll put a link below that for you to download and have it for reference. And then next week we'll go and I'll make some of my own slides to talk about revenue and income, cash flow and profit, gross profit, as well as expenses, of course, and what are liabilities versus by assets, and accounts receivable versus accounts payable. These are all things that you should have a rough idea on what they are in order for you to be able to do your own bookkeeping, or even be able to read the income statement, which we talked about, or the balance sheet we talked about, which are created by your bookkeeper for you to have a look at either every month or at the end of the year. And of course, the income statement and the balance sheet for the year is what you give to the accountant in order to, or the accountant does for you in order to submit to the government for taxes, etc. So this is all very interesting. I learned bookkeeping using the books. You used to have books. One book was your of course, your accounts receivable. One book was your cash, and then you had a book for each account. So when you had your payment, it was a lot of books, and of course you put one. You process it each transaction is put into 2 books. So I'm not sure I'm going to teach you accounting or bookkeeping. There are courses online for you to learn bookkeeping. I think I learned it with a book. I don't think it's worth me showing the book because it's several years ago, but if you're interested. It's worth knowing how to do your own bookkeeping and entering your books and keeping up to date as to what money you have on hand and what money is going out, and so that you can change one or the other, or you can increase your price so that your gross margin is going to work for you. So let's just have a look again at my offer, since it's the end of the show. And basically for each training, I'm going to have an offer of you be able to learn a lot of this quicker. So 6 days to become a website ninja using HTML code. Very much implementation on ways, on things you can learn, and I'll have templates and cheat sheets of the information so that you can go to your website and change something quickly that you're not happy with, or add a hyperlink, or add a PayPal button, etc. And make your images look great by being able to know some of the code for HTML, because that's what they are using within your WordPress website, especially to create your website look. So you would go to http://jgtips.com/html5, and you will see that I have an offer for the 6-day intensive. You're welcome to have replays, but you can answer. I can answer questions live on the show as well. There will be a manual about HTML and extra videos on HTML for you, and cheat sheets and templates for you to be able to do a lot of these things quickly and have them on reference for you to become a website ninja as a solopreneur. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week. Next week, I'll be setting up my own slides. I'm talking about some of the terms and using some sample numbers so you can get an idea on what a net income is versus a gross profit is, and a margin is, and et cetera, so that you have some idea when someone is speaking to you about what is your net profit, you know what they're talking about. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week.
Hope you found that useful, and subscribe at http://homebizstartuptv, which is homebizstartuptv.com, or go to bohb.com, which is the business about home business, to find out more information and start your business now, because we have plenty of resources over there. So see you there.